In our last story, Jesus has healed the nobleman's son, the mayor of the city in Capernaum. And now he's going to travel on to his hometown of Nazareth, where he was raised with his mom and with his stepdad, Joseph. And he worked with Joseph in the carpenter shop and played with all the kids. And I was looking up some of the archaeological history of some of these things. And in the Museum of the Bible in Washington, D.C., archaeologists have found some of the toys that Jesus may have played with, probably did, from that era in Nazareth. And they found clay marbles, they found tops, they found little carved wooden animals on wheels the kids would pull. They found, hula hoops, but they were made out of wood. Can't you see Jesus playing with a hula hoop? And marbles, they try to get the marble, just like kids do today, tops. They also had games like leapfrog and hopscotch. Sounds pretty normal for a kid, doesn't it? Well, that's what they were playing with back in Jesus' day, too. And he grew up in Nazareth as a kid with good memories and working in the carpenter shop. But now he's 31 years old, and he's coming back. And it came upon the Sabbath day, and they had, if you ever watched Drive Through History, they had their own temple. It wasn't a temple, it was a place of worship. It was not like Solomon's temple at all. In fact, it was just a little dugout place with kind of half walls around it and tent stakes and a cover. But they had all of the platform was up there for the place with the scrolls and the pulpit and stuff. That was all, but it was made out of like adobe blocks, everything. So this was the place of worship in Nazareth. And it came upon the Sabbath day, and Jesus had been asked if he would read the scripture that day and then explain it. And so he said he would. And so when the Sabbath day came, all of his old buddies, his old friends were sitting down in the audience. So the priest gave Jesus, he said, what scroll are you going to read out of today? And Jesus said, Isaiah 61. So the priest handed him the scroll of Isaiah 61 to read at the pulpit. So Jesus goes up, he turns around, and he stands before them at the pulpit, and he began to read. And this is what he read out of Isaiah. 7 things, remember that, 7 things that Jesus read. Jesus' whole life was wrapped up in 7s. And here's what he read out of Isaiah 61, out of the Old Testament from years before. And in Isaiah 61 it says, this is what Jesus read. The Spirit of the Lord is upon me, because he has anointed me to preach the good news to the poor. He has sent me to heal the brokenhearted. He sent me to preach deliverance to those who are captives of sin, and renewing the sight, recovering the sight to the blind, and to set at liberty them that are bruised, that have a broken heart, and to preach the acceptable year of the Lord. These are 7 things. And then Jesus said after that, today has this prophecy been fulfilled in your ears. What? Oh, the town couldn't understand that. Like, what gall? I mean, Isaiah's talking about the coming Messiah, and you're telling us that you're him? They thought, that is just ridiculous. We used to play marbles with you. We used to run our animals in the street with you and play hula hoops. We'd run a hoop along with a stick, and we played all these games with you and had a good time and stuff, and now you're setting yourself up above us and say you're the promised one that Isaiah's talking about? No way. And Jesus went and sat down, which was the custom then. After they read the scrolls, they would sit down in a chair, and other people would gather their chairs or benches around them, and the guy that read the scriptures, I shouldn't say the guy, the Jews have a name for it, but they would listen to Jesus explain the scriptures. So Jesus sat down ready to teach about Isaiah's prophecy, but there were some in the crowd, some of his good buddies in the crowd, that said, no way. Do you think you're more important than we are? Good grief, what's happened to you, kid? And they took him, it says they took him by the arms, and they pulled him out of the temple and into the street, and they were going to beat on him, and one of them said, I got a better idea. Let's take him up to the top of now Nazareth is built on a hill, and they said, but let's take him up to the very top of the hill. And so they did that, and there was a big canyon, a rocky canyon below them, just a big drop off. And a lot of them, not all, but a lot of his buddies took him by the arms and stuff and said, we're going to bring you up there. Well, then he went like this, and it says he put his arms out. Nobody touched him, and he walked up there himself to the top of the hill. They wanted to throw rocks at him and push him over the cliff. But then they got him up there, and Jesus just looked at him, and it said they immediately just dropped their rocks, and he walked down the hill away through the crowd. Nobody touched him at all. God's providence and protection. And nobody touched him at all. And it says in the scriptures that salvation did not come to those Jews in Nazareth because of what they wouldn't do. They wouldn't even give Jesus a chance to explain the scriptures. And you know, some of them did, but a lot of them didn't. But it reminds me a lot of today with all of these riots in the streets and everything, people not understanding each other, just hatred and violence and throwing rocks and bottles and Molotov cocktails. And this is what's happening in our world today. And this is the same thing that was happening in the quiet, sleepy little town of Nazareth when Jesus showed up. See, when Jesus shows up, you got to take sides. Which side are we on? So this was a sad day for the people in Nazareth and for a lot of his little buddies that he used to play with. So I'm going to leave it off there right now. Bye-bye.